back to Women Making Moves, where we celebrate the moves that women are making. My name is Amy Pons. I'm a Master Certified Life Coach and a Soul Healer. I'm joined today with the Matria Coalition, Jen Norman and Michelle Casazza. Michelle Casazza and Jen Norman are the co-creators of Matria Coalition, a light-touch coaching community empowering women on their journey to self. As a feminine embodiment coach, Michelle, co-creator and head coach, is passionate about investing in women, living a balanced life, and protecting Mother Earth. Yes, Gaia. After allowing years in corporate to take their toll, Michelle embarked on a personal growth journey, emerging with a firm belief that women can do it all, but not all alone and not all at once. Michelle's work is grounded in a proprietary program, the Matria Life Chart. Through this transformational process, Michelle empowers women navigating bold life transitions to build intentional, aligned lives, creating a sense of ease, peace, and flow. Jen, co-creator and lead community facilitator, is passionate about empowering women to take control of their lives and lean into alignment. After many years serving in the United States military and corporate tech startups, she realized that the most important work she could do was to help others realize the same level of alignment that she found on her journey to self through coaching and energy healing. Her goal is to share what she has learned and lead others on their own journeys. Together, they have launched Matria Coalition and are actively recruiting the founding member cohort. Michelle and Jen, welcome.
Thank you. So excited. So excited to be here.
I'm going to call us the Curly Squad.
Yes.
So good.
2 brunettes and a blonde.
Although depending on how much sun I have, my hair starts to turn red. So I'm like, there's an auburn thing happening here.
Fun fact. I once had my hair dyed for 2 years, like fire engine red, and I loved it.
Oh my gosh.
I've also been red.
No way.
A ton of fun. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So Matria, first of all, is Matria a play on the matriarchy?
It is. Yeah. It's very much inspired by the word matriarch and the power and femininity that matriarchs hold and empower. So yeah, absolutely.
I hear very well-intentioned folks sometimes recently saying, y'all are so mad about the patriarchy, but you're bringing in the matriarchy. And I was like, okay, here's where we have a beautiful conversation about balance.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, for us, and Jen and I talk about this a lot, it's all about balancing the masculine and the feminine, bringing the two together. And so this is not a man-hating club. It's very much not that. We very much love our male allies. We very much connect to our masculine energy. And I think what we both realize is we've been too connected to that for too long. And it's now time to bring the feminine up. It's now time to reconnect with our feminine side and our feminine energy. And so it's that word balance you just said. That's what we're looking for. It's not a replacement. It's a balance. It's looking for that harmony and to bring both those worlds together.
And we go so far as to call it out when we're on our coalition calls. We'll say, okay, I'm going to tap into the masculine here. Like, what do you want to do? And I learned that from someone very powerful sitting in this room with me. And so, yeah, we just call it out. And then I think that's kind of what gives it credence. It's like people are like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And so I love that.
I find myself wanting to do some sort of an education on what we're talking about. What in the heck are we talking about with energies? Because I'll speak for myself. Growing up, we didn't talk about energy. I mean, you talked about energy as it relates to kid, you have too much energy. Sit down, go do something, go read a book. Mm-hmm. That's the extent of what we heard about energy. So, and I didn't even realize that until recently in my journey and when I left corporate. By and large, this world was not designed, and especially in the workplace, my feeling, the workplace specifically was not designed with women and people of color in mind. And so it's only in the toxic masculine to have benefited white men, because if we go back 100 years, that's when everything started happening with the industrial age, and it was white men on the forefront. So they kept growing only for what they knew. And here we are when it's like, oh, wait a second. And we've had so many different waves of sexual revolutions for women and welcoming back in the divine feminine. What I'm seeing now, this particular invitation that we're seeing for the divine feminine to come back in. And when we talk about energy, everybody has feminine, everybody has masculine, to your point, men and women, humans. The pandemic caused such a record scratch moment for people to stop and go inward, whether they liked it or not. I'm seeing this particular invitation of divine feminine coming back in with not only like an urgency, but also the like masses. And this is where coaching is becoming such a beautiful industry and life to be in, because there are so many people that have been skewed in the toxic masculine for so long, because that's all we've known, because that's all we've been taught. And it's gotten toxic. We've only been in the masculine. Coaching is becoming that beautiful allyship to walk alongside humanity and help them figure out, what is this? What do I do with this? What do I want to do with this? What is my soul asking for? And what are these energies? So I really resonated, obviously, with what you just said, because I find myself talking about this every single day, about the balance of divine feminine, divine masculine. And there was actually a repair person here recently, and he was like, what the actual fuck are you talking about? What? And so I was like, oh, cool opportunity. Let me share. And he literally said, he was like, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. I'm like, all right, you don't get it. Let's move on.
Oh yeah, it went real basic.
I was like, all right.
Beyond that.
I was like, okay.
6-year-old about that now. Like, let's
right. So there's so much education. There's so much, I was going to say, there's so much to do and to feel into what we're trying to do here. So yes. Why Matria? Why now? Tell me.
Why Matria? Well, to me, Matria really represents that balance of the masculine and the feminine. It represents the action that we need to take, and also the reflection and inner work that we're all doing to really get closer to our true essence, our higher selves, our understanding of who we truly are. And why now? I think you mentioned the broader awakening that's happening and this call to the feminine. And I very much feel that. I very much received that call. And I've been really connected to my faith and trusting that call that I've had. And I've seen it really transform my life and really help me pivot from this shell of who I was to a broader expression of self. And this really, what I think is a beautiful multidimensional life that I'm building for myself. And for me, there was no other option. I mean, I had to do something. I wanted to share with other people, and it just, things started happening that led me down this path, and I followed those little pings. And what's been most exciting is seeing how other people transform, how other people step into their full expression of self. I've always been that kind of person that sees the best in people. Like even before doing this work, and, I was always able to see like, wow, like so-and-so is so great at this. If I could help them see how great they are. And I loved that transformation. I loved that really giving someone that support. We may call it empowerment now. Perhaps it's coaching, but when I was doing my own work to think about what's most important to me, what am I good at? What do I want to do for other people? That just kept coming up. I want to help people see their spark, and I want to help them bring that to fruition. So that's what comes up for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I align so much with, Amy and Michelle and what you said. There is a broader awakening happening, and not to bring back some of the cliche language around what was happening in the pandemic, but there is like this great resignation. And I think it lends more like all people are realizing that the patriarchy doesn't fit them. I think the women's voice right now is louder because we've kind of had enough. And that's why we're focusing on supporting women at this stage in the Matria Coalition. But we really have this collective vision where all people need to change the way that they work. And I also feel like it's a little bit safer for women to speak up right now, because I think men are also feeling it. All people are also feeling it. They haven't recognized it. And so if we can set the example and usher people into this new stage of alignment, then I think we're really on a great path.
Men are feeling it. I've recently begun to coach men as well to pull on that thread or follow the ping, which I love that. Follow the pings, and I'll say like pull the threads. Anything that you're feeling like in a coaching space, or I always say like a championing space, a space where you're creating a container for someone to explore or to pull on the threads without their physical life immediately changing, because that can be scary and new and unfamiliar, and we'll go and retreat back into what we know. men will come to me and they're like, I'm terrified of you, but I feel like you can help me pull this thread. And I'm like, help me understand why you're terrified of me, because that's also what I don't want to be leading with. I don't want anyone to feel terrified. I am a safe space all in all. However, and if you would have met me a year ago, I was that only feminist, and everything that I was doing was in the masculine, meaning I was needing to make men wrong. I was needing to make white women who were perpetuating the patriarchy, I needed to make them wrong. Through my growth and healing, I've now shifted completely into I need for all humans to feel safe and psychologically safe, especially with me. So that's where my narrative has shifted, even in my posting and my coaching, is that I want to help all humans pull those threads. And so the men that I'm coaching, it's really a beautiful experience. They don't know right away it's the divine feminine calling. And when I talk to them about the energies, they're like, that makes sense. They're like, well, I don't want to be a woman. I was like, that's not what I said. It's again like helping everyone understand what the heck we're talking about. So I'm sensing we should have some sort of an educational something coming up. We should all collab on this. An ongoing cadence of like, what the heck are we talking about when we're talking about energies and how they're showing up, and how, by the way, I also give love and light to the humans in my corporate world that were perpetuating and harming me through that, because they only knew that. I give empathy to them because that's all they know. So it's about showing up in a space where you're not judging from preconceived notions, training, education, your whole life, and saying, tell me more. Why do you feel that way? Help me understand. And bringing them through to their own understanding on their timeline, not on mine. And that's been the biggest shift for me specifically.
Something that Jen said that really stuck out to me was around how, men are scared to speak out right now. And I actually really feel that. And I feel a lot of empathy there, because it's not like the social trend right now for men to have a voice about transformation. And like you, Amy, I have a lot of men kind of like whispering, like, do you work with men like me? Can you help? And it's just so interesting because we joke. I'm like, well, maybe we're going to have to start the Patria. And that's like not, that like doesn't translate.
Maybe it's like, I was going to say like maybe the Hatria. No, that like human.
So working title, and we're also very much supporting men on their journey as well. And I think that openness and creating that space for us all to come back to who we truly are. It reminds me of the end of the Barbie movie when Barbie says to Ken, like, it's not about us having all the power or like us being, fully in ourselves. It's about everyone having the right to be who they are. And that, to me, it was such a small part of the movie, but it was the entire movie for me. Like that did it. Mm-hmm. And that's, really what we stand for. And like Jen said, we're serving women currently primarily, and there's definitely a space and a need to be serving men as well.
Awesome. I love the work around simply allowing humans to think a thought they were not taught. What was that voice when you were 5 years old playing in the dirt? What did you feel? What is that? Like, how can we help that come back? Whatever that is, again, for all humans. And by the way, if you want to be a corporate CEO, great, go do that. But be human about it. Don't hurt others.
That's the only ask. Yes.
Yeah. That's the only ask, right? Amazing. So you launched Matria. It's live. Y'all check it out. We're going to put it in show notes. It's a community to come together. Would you say it's personal development, career development? Is it a mix of all? What is it? What can I expect?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Matria Coalition is a light touch coaching membership community, empowering women that are navigating through bold life transitions. The majority of our members are moving from what was a masculine, male-dominated space, and they're seeking an aligned, more balanced version of themselves. And they are drawn to these feminine principles and curious about, what this all means and how it can provide a more full expression of self in their own lives. And so you can expect a really beautiful community space where we come together virtually. We host our signature event is called Our Gathering, and we get together twice per month virtually on Zoom and have these really beautiful conversations that, are really exploring all of these themes that you and I and Jen are talking about today. And there are themes like, how do we experience time? What does it mean when someone starts talking about imposter syndrome? And of course, the divine feminine is one we talk about a lot. And through sharing our experiences and sharing some guidance, we really see some interesting transformations happening across the community. And almost all of the women that come to us are either, in a career transition. So perhaps they've been laid off, perhaps they've decided to leave their corporate career and look for something more aligned. And also there are many entrepreneurs. So solopreneurs who are building their own businesses. And what's interesting is that we're all in a different scenario. There's no one person that fits the mold, but we're all united by this curiosity and by this openness to explore together and to support each other on our journey. So it's been a really beautiful experience and really exciting to be working on this with Jen and to be growing our membership at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think my favorite part of it is that the women that join the community, they come because of a career transition, like Michelle said, like that's the most common kicker in people's lives to seek a community like this. And they quickly realize that it's more and we should be paying attention to more in our lives. Then that's really where we lean on the Matria Life Chart program that Michelle had created as the foundation, because that touches on all of the aspects of life. And so our members then really start to dig in and realize, like, I can do this piece and be really effective. And I can also pay attention to the joy that I want to have in life. So that's really what is the most rewarding for me, is like seeing the members really come out of it with, okay, I can focus on, more than just my career. My life is more than just my career.
Yes. I find that to be so true with all humans, but women today, is that when you start to do the work of feeling back into what your soul essence is, beyond work, beyond your relationships, it's like going really back into yourself. You start to see the glimmers again each day. I think back to myself in corporate where like everything in the world was happening to me. My zipper got stuck. My blazer got caught on the doorknob. I spilled my coffee. Woe is me. Everything. It was so miserable all the time. And now I'm like, yay, my coffee spilled. I get to have this one more moment in my life where like I can clean up coffee. And how grateful am I that I was able to make this great espresso coffee in my home? Like, wow. And some people look at me like, wow, Amy, you're like a Pollyanna, everything, rose-colored glasses. That doesn't change the fact that I still feel grateful that I'm able to have these experiences in this time and space. It's helping uncover those glimmers again about how beautiful life is. And I find being in community with women specifically, that's how we help each other feel back into that, because we're still needing to operate in day to day, which is still skewed to the masculine.
It reminds me of one of our core beliefs, which is that women can do it all, but not all alone. And to me, that actually came up during one of the early retreats for Matria. It's an interesting story. So we did this retreat that for our earliest founders, earliest members, and it was all about helping each other level up their business ideas. And it was a group of 4 women who are building really spiritually aligned businesses. And I created this session called Level Up. And it was inspired by the sad truth that women, when pitching businesses, are often asked attractor questions, which take away from what the business could be, whereas men are asked promoter questions. So, for example, a man is more typically asked a question like, oh, well, what if we connected you with so-and-so? How could that help your business? What if it went really well? Women are asked, well, what if it doesn't work? What if your forecast isn't right? They're detractor. And so we were inspired by that. And the Level Up session was all about how can we ask you more promoter questions? What if your idea really works? What if we connected you with this person, with that idea? So I was going through everyone else's business idea, helping them level up. And then they turned the tables on me unexpectedly, asking me like, well, what if Matria really works? What if your business really does well? And first of all, I was struck because I did not expect that support from the group. I was so used to just giving. And here I was in this moment of receiving. And one of the women said, I feel like what you're getting at here is that we need each other. Women are stronger together. And the phrase women can do it all, but not all alone came up. And it just it was one of those light bulb moments. And I was like, yes, this is core to what we're doing. It's not about competition. It's about collaboration. And coming back to your point about education on the masculine and feminine, competition is a very masculine based characteristic. Collaboration is very feminine. And so every day I challenge myself when I start to feel that like negative competition coming up, I think, well, actually, can I collaborate? And so it was just this really beautiful moment when we were ideating on Matria that led to that belief. So you're absolutely right, Amy. When women come together, when we support each other in community, there's nothing that we can't accomplish.
Mm-hmm. And I love that piece, collaboration against competition. Not that like we're pitting the feminine against the masculine, but I just remember back to, being in the tech startup when I was met with so much resistance, and I would go to my colleagues and I would say, why can't we just all work together? What is this? Like, why? I don't understand why we can't just be a team. Because it doesn't matter who closes the deal. We need to close the deal and we can all benefit. I never understood that. And that's how I've approached all of my work, especially like in the military, which the military internally is a very competitive place. And then I jumped right to a defense tech startup, again, really internally competitive place. And I just wasn't fitting in. Mm-hmm. And so I really hope that we as a collective can start to realize where competition fits in life and where collaboration is the right answer.
The thing that I get excited about is that there's so many communities like Matria popping up, and we need more and more and more. If you can imagine every woman in this world needing a place, calling in a place to feel seen, heard, and themselves, and to, oh, by the way, feel lifted up. And on those days where you want to go like rage apply on LinkedIn, calling one of the women in your group and saying, help, okay, we got this, fucking rise, we got this, we're going to crush it. I'm happy to see more and more pop up, especially in the balance like we're talking about. I find that in my business, when I'm in the masculine, I'm doing a lot of things. And when I'm in the feminine, I'm feeling a lot of things. And what's really great is when it's balanced, I picture like an egg sitting on a stand. So like the stand is the divine masculine, giving that strength and structure to this beautiful egg of creation, birthing of divine feminine to sit upon. I'm giving that context because, again, I don't want to just keep saying these terms and then not giving like what we feel in our personal lives or personal businesses. When in the world of Amy, when it's this beautiful balance, it's inspired, aligned action. And that's when I know I'm balanced.
Yeah, yes. That's so well said. And that is so aligned with how we've built out the Matria Life Chart program. And it's that combination of first getting into the feeling. How do we want our lives to look? What are our values? What's most important to us, right? There's the reflection, there's going inward, there's the silence, which is something that keeps coming up this week, is the challenge and the benefit of the silence. And then once we're there, okay, well, what are we going to do? What's that action we're going to take that can bring us closer to those desires and closer to that purpose? And it really brings together the two. And what's interesting is my pre-Matria life was all in the masculine. Mm-hmm. It was all about executing. My motto was GSD, get shit done.
Oh yeah.
It didn't matter what shit I was doing. I just had to get it done.
Yep.
And now it's like, well, wait, let's get really clear on what I want to do, why I want to do it, how it's going to bring value to myself and others. And then let's get it done. Mm-hmm. Then let's go in. And it's amazing how you can flow so much more easily when you're in that space and doing work aligned with what you're meant to be doing.
And there's less pressure, because you're in the right space. Mm-hmm. If you can stay true to that feeling. And that's really how Michelle and I have approached working together over these past few months, because we've really tapped into how do we want to feel? And we ask that question every single time, we're even coming into this podcast, like, how do we want to feel? What do we want other people to feel? And it's interesting. And this is what I love about working with Michelle, is that we are so aligned in what we want to accomplish. And when we feel out of alignment, it's for both of us. And it may be one person that calls it out first, but it's the both of us were like, okay, yes, this conversation needed to happen. And then what are we going to do about it? So we express like how we're feeling in the partnership, where we're getting off track, and then what are we going to do about it? And that's how we landed on the term co-creators instead of co-founders, because co-founders was so in the ego. And we both bring so much, in taking a phrase from you, Amy, is the unique brilliance of what we've been wanting to create and what we've done over the past couple of years to get to our own internal alignment. And the word co-founder was just bringing up a lot of ego, negative emotions, and it wasn't keeping us in how we wanted to feel in the partnership. And so we came together, and it was just kind of in the nick of time. Both knew, we both said,
very much in the nick of time.
And we looked at each other and we said, we both know we want to do this together. How do we get to a place to where the feeling still stays where we both want it to be? And that's where we shed that ego-driven co-founder title. And the second that Michelle said on that call, what about co-creator? The room just,
there was a massive exhale. Yeah.
What I think is amazing and beautiful is that you're doing the work, you're creating the new way to work and live and be. And those amazing moments where you can shed the ego and say, I feel sticky. I feel in my feelings, and having a conversation on the soul level.
It changes things.
Yeah. I want to go to a post that Matria made recently on LinkedIn that really resonated with me. I've always been in the corporate world we call woo. And what that's meant is I'm able to read, feel energy, literally. And I never knew what to do with that from even a small child. My little child body used to get in a lot of pain when I would feel energy that was off. I now know that I have gifts and abilities, and I'm also very attuned with Mother Earth, with Gaia, nature. And that's my woo. So I'll say like I'm a coachy witch or a witchy coach, whatever you prefer, but it's that I'm aligned with love and light and energy to get you to your highest self or where you're trying to get to. So when Matria posted about a week ago, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Tell me about this post and like what that means for both of you.
So that quote was part of our post on the topic of time, which was something that came up during our Matria Coalition gathering. And we had done some market research, and what we kept hearing was, I don't have enough time. This is what we heard from every single woman that we talked to. I don't have time. And at the same time, we had been listening to The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which is such a great book. And he actually talks a lot about Einsteinian time and how we are, time is relative and we are actually the makers of time. And when we're doing things that are aligned with our true selves, and when we're making the choice on how to spend our time, time expands, and we have all the time in the world to do what we're meant to do. And it was such a shift for me. And so as I was working on that blog post, I just kept thinking about how I've been able to create time over the past years and how I've experienced time a lot differently. And this quote just came to mind around nature. And I think it's just really beautiful. It reminds me of the cyclical nature or the cycles that nature goes through, and the invitation that it is for us to follow those cycles. I remember the first time, it was actually right when I was making the decision to leave corporate. I went on a sailing trip and I saw the cycles of the moon. Every night I saw the moon. And it was this moment where I thought, oh my God, I've never noticed the moon cycles. I never realized we could go outside and watch the moon move throughout its cycle. And it was just like this slap in the face moment. Like you need more of this. You need more of this. And so nature's become a healer for me. It's become a partner to me on this journey. And it's been a teacher to me. And so it just felt like, we're always rushing around. We never have enough time when we're I never used to have enough time, and there's a different way. And so it was really an expansive quote and concept for me.
And again, it lends into one of our core beliefs, one of our principles, which is women can do it all, but not all at once.
I follow the moon closely. I do new moon and full moon ceremonies, and synced up with my own beautiful second chakra, womb space cycle, menstrual cycle, and co-create. That's how I align my energies to co-create with the universe and with the moon specifically. And it's so beautiful. Nature, it kind of makes me chuckle. We always talk about like no one has a playbook, no one knows how to do life. I was like, yeah, nature does. Absolutely. And then we try to recreate the wheel every time, every day. And so it's just taking those cues from nature and just grounding into Mother Earth that Gaia's got us. And oh, by the way, she will restore all the time when humans fuck up. Like this is why we look at like natural disasters. And while I feel empathy for any human pain or harm, it's also Gaia doesn't want to do that, but she will restore balance. That's what nature does.
Oh, yeah. And this lends into a call that you and I had a few months ago, Amy, was if you're kind of leaning into that alignment and you're on your way there, nature will tell you when things are shifting. Do you remember that week when I was like, what is happening on Thursday?
Yes.
Like my week was just compounded. Everything was happening on
Everything.
that Thursday. And you're like, oh, there's I think it was a new moon.
New moon. Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense. And, 3 years ago, me would have been like, that's silly. But now, like, you can just pay attention. If you just pay attention to that, I mean, your guides and the universe tells you.
Yes, the new moon, you can't see the new moon in the sky because the way that the sun and the earth are positioned. So it's literally a blank canvas for you to write your dreams in the sky. And what I thought was beautiful about that is that when you and I set out to create your top priorities, all of those were on that Thursday. And you're like, oh, you created that in the new moon. Like you co-created your top priorities in that. And then the one that was lowest priority actually moved off of Thursday, like beautifully. It was so aligned. And so to your point, Jen, that's a beautiful example. It's both the simplest thing we can do and the hardest thing we can do to surrender, to align to that energy because we've been forced in this time and space with the power, order, structure, money to only focus on the things that create that. To be able to bring us more. And until we can pay in candlesticks, we of course need to be out here making some money. And so it's like it gets to be both and just understanding where you can realign and balance when you have the chance. So as we start to wind down, what would you both say to anyone who may come to you and say, we have enough women's communities, we have enough of these, like why do we need one more? And also, what would you say to someone that is looking for the right fit for them and encouraging and collaborating with more and more of these communities for women that are emerging, that are being birthed or created?
I think I'd say the same thing to everyone, which is that if this work resonates with you, if you're feeling called to it in any way, explore that curiosity. There's a reason why it's of interest to you, and there's a reason why you're intrigued and feeling called. And so follow that and see what comes. I mean, it's just so interesting how when I think about how I got here, there's all these small little things that led me to this moment. And one of them that sticks out is I was on a trip in Holbox with my friend Danielle. I think I mentioned this earlier. And we were sitting there. We didn't know that this was a wellness resort that we were at, but at breakfast, there was a wellness menu, things you could do during the day on your wellness journey. And so the list was yoga and meditation. I was like, okay, I've dabbled in those. What else do they have? The next thing on the list was divine feminine energy. I had no clue what that meant. I was, said to my friend, I said, is there any chance you want to do this with me? I don't know what it means, but I'm very intrigued. And we said yes. And that has been so expansive, so explosive for our growth. And we're actually, continuing on our path to bring more content and learning on the concept of divine feminine to our community. The point is, when you have that intrigue, if you feel curious, follow it. And if you don't, that's okay. This can exist without you having to be a part of it, without you understanding it. That's okay too. It may not be for you. It may not be for you right now. And both of those answers are okay.
And in response to there are plenty of women's communities out there, or there's more women's communities popping up all over the place. I say, yes, welcome. Like,
yes,
need more people to do this work. And I think that there's an evolution to it too, because, let's focus on the people that are having those curiosity pings, and then let's expand from there. women do still face unique challenges in their life. And so we've been taught that, we have to be in competition with each other. And as we move more into the collaborative space, there is a healing of like being around other women. And I've noticed it. I'm spending the week with my mother, and it's funny, she, in her retirement job, she works at the golf course that she's a member of. And she says, "Oh, I work with all women, so it's catty." And I was like, "Oh,
Ooh, we were taught that.
yes."
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to say to my 72-year-old mother. I kind of let it go. I love her dearly, but it's like, it's that healing that we need to have together, which is why in the here and now, we're focusing on bringing women together. It doesn't mean in 10 years, 20 years that these communities are going to be for all people.
Right.
And that's really my goal. Like, and the vision that I know Michelle also shares is there's still so much work and healing to do in the space of the collective feminine, and we're here for it, and we want more people to join us.
Mm-hmm. In March, every day of Women's History Month, I've been posting an ad from the 20s of how we got here, the conditioning of how we got here. And you see it in these horrible, horrifying ads. And then I'll post something from today that makes us feel a little bit better. And then we still have a long way to go. But I always share, if someone, especially the older generations, and I see this too, it's like everything's happening to you. I was like, what if you could look at these other individuals and think that has nothing to do with me? Like, own your own stuff, and that's theirs, and nothing has to happen about it, and you don't need to fix it, and you don't need to engage. But I find myself removing my energy. Like, if there's like a gossip circle or something happening, I will, one, feel very uncomfortable, and I'll try to change the subject. And if it's not happening, then I'll just remove myself, because I don't want to be in spaces where women are talking down. I want to go up. And so that's just my choice. And by the way, I'm not judging for them for doing that. I'm just removing my energy from that type of vibe. So,
Yeah.
okay. So where can we find you, both individually and in Matria?
So you can find us on Instagram at Join Matria. And you can find Jen and I on email at hello@joinmatria.com. And I think in the show notes, we'll have our LinkedIn bios, and would love to hear from you. Please reach out to us.
Yeah. If any of what we've talked about today you want to talk about more, we'd love a conversation. So please reach out, check out the community. We have some events coming up, and we're going to have those posted all over our LinkedIn and our Instagram. So
very cool. Closing remarks as we start to wrap up.
Closing remarks is, we're all on our own journey. And I think that's what makes this so exciting. And going back to what you just shared around protecting your own energy, you know what's best for you. And, connect with your gut, go silent, go within, and let that be your guide. And if you need some support listening to your gut, that's where community and that's where a coach can support you in your journey.
I second that. We're here for you.
Thank you, Matria. Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Amy. This was great.
Amy.